Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is kind of twofold. One, an update about what's going on around here, because I got myself into a project that has taken a lot longer than expected. So give you a little sneak peek on that. And then second is, and the main project for today is actually this target stand. It belongs to a buddy of mine, and the way it's designed, it could be improved on. So first we'll talk about a little project update in the garage, and then we'll talk about this and what's wrong with it. So this pile of parts and stuff here is my new golf cart. You can see I ordered some bit beefier tires than your standard golf cart has. We're going to end up lifting the rear up a little bit to match the front, but what we got going on the front here is a little long travel action. So we got the spindles all built out and the arms. Shocks them out up here and down to the tabs on the bottom. But the problem is I'm waiting on some bushings. My buddy of mine is making me some custom Delrin bushings. And right now we just have 3D printed mock-up bushings in there. So once we get those bushings in the mail, we can get some paint on this and the bushings in and throw it back together. I don't think one video on the golf cart is really going to cover everything that'll be going on and just be skipping over a bunch of stuff. So it'll be a couple videos. But long travel in the front, the rear is going to be radius arms and airbags, truck bed, we're getting rid of these roof brackets here and the front ones, and we're going to build an actual kind of a light duty roll cage, and then we're actually building a lithium ion battery pack for it that should come out just shy of 200 amp hours. It's a 36 volt motor and we're going to push 48 volts to it. We got a 500 amp controller, 48 volt, so it should scream pretty good. And my goal is to make the range fairly far so that it can actually be used as like a work cart, a hunting cart, drive around the neighborhood cart. And it'll still only be 2-wheel drive, but with the suspension on it, it'll probably go plenty of places. So that's kind of an update on what's been going on in the garage. That's going really slow. So let's get to talking about this target now. So this thing is mostly AR500 steel. This here you can see is kind of a guard to protect this piece of angle iron, which is actually holding the targets. This being one of the targets, there's 6 of these AR500 plates. And the problem is, here's the back of it. So the strike face is away from us. You can see that these are getting chewed up just from the design. And kind of, we'll go slow motion here. So you can see it's binding up a lot just by design. And then there's a bunch of meat that's missing out of these. And what's happening is when the target is struck, this is actually because of all the bouncing and the force, these are falling out. So what we're gonna do is I went and priced out a couple different options for something that functions a little more smooth, like round. And I wanted to use a solid rod. So I just went up to Big R and I grabbed this. Initially I priced out some 1-inch by 6-inch grade 8 and grade 5 bolts, and they were double the price of this all thread. So we're just gonna go with this all thread. We're gonna cut these tabs right here off, cut these into 6-inch lengths, and then just weld that to this. So then it'll have a nice longer rod in here, a nice smooth transfer from side to side. And we're gonna cut all these welds off, flip these over to start with the nice new smooth side you can see right there, and then weld them back onto this piece of angle iron. Whenever I'm using the death wheel with no guard, I like to use the old full face. Probably need to find the guard for this thing. It's got to be around here somewhere. You really use that one down to the end, huh? Alright, well, that's done, so let's move on to cutting the tabs off of these and cutting up our all thread and getting them welded on. Alright, so one issue why these are all chewed up is because this is a lot better than it was, because there's I just think it's going to be a smoother transition than it had before. But the problem was this is resting on here, so as it moved, it was chewing it up. And so what I think I want to do to combat that is we're going to cut straight down here. That's 2 1/4 of an inch. So that means that if we cut straight down here and we take a really big hammer and a punch and we bend this in as far as we can, ideally like the halfway point, then the end of this right here will be riding on that tab that we bend in, about like that, instead of this right here. So I think that'll wear a lot better than chewing up this edge again to where it starts bouncing around. So let's go ahead and at least try it on one of these. We'll cut that and then punch it in. Not the prettiest bend. Let's look at another option. I don't really like the way that looks. All right, so it turns out I should have just gone with plan A, not using the shop press, because that's what I was kind of going for, was a nice rolled edge in there. So I cut another one, and then I just started it with this edge right here. So if this one were cut, I just took and gave it one solid whack to get the roll started, and then I placed the hammer on it and then used another hammer and just kept hitting it until I got it to where I wanted it. And then I just kind of cleaned this one up a little bit better too. So I think we're gonna go with this method. Yeah, so you can see it's not riding on that anymore. Now it's riding down there on that. I think this is gonna work a lot better and last a lot longer. The only possible issue we could have now is if this wants to jump out. But I think because of the, maybe we'll stand it up and give it a couple whacks and see what happens. All right, so we welded the entire seams on all of them because we had them just tacked at the top and bottom like they were originally, but then when we made this cut, I wanted to add a weld here, and by the time I got done, I just decided to weld them all the way up. So next time we have to fix this, we have to do a lot more cutting, if we have to fix it again. I also welded, added a little bead down here in this crevice, just because when we pounded that in, it kind of distorted the metal a bit and made it kind of thin down there. So we just threw a little bead in there, and that'll help strengthen it, and it's functioning pretty well. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with it. So now we just need to knock off some of the sharp edges on this tube that I just cut, hit it with a wire brush, and send it on its way.